CSR project. What does that tell you? Nothing. It just says that I was expected to do this and I did this. It doesn't tell you anything about sustainability. Any thoughts? Anybody has heard about annual reports, sustainability reports? So these are the sources of truth. So anybody who does ESG rating, anybody who does sustainability based evaluations, assessments, they look up the business reports from there, which will be there on their website, which they're supposed to do. This is changing because mostly it was written like 80 page, 100 page. Now imagine you have to compare 5 organizations, have to go through 1000 pages just to figure out what these guys do. India has now come up with a report called BRSR, which was last year, the first year, where it got published, which is mandated, where it has become very templatized. No fancy words, you have to put out numbers. What have you done? What's your emission looking like? What kind of water consumption have you done? What kind of jobs have you generated? What is your DEI? Are you training your employees? Everything that you would want to know for sustainability is on that. So in case any of you are interested to know what a sustainability means for business, please go through the BRSR template and look up all the data that they have asked. It's almost 220 plus indicators. It can make you go nuts, but it's good to know about all of us. We'll run through. Globally also it is, a lot of things are happening. There is a carbon tax happening, there is a CBAM happening, there are conversations which are around due diligence which needs to be done from supply chain perspective. Now this is the other risk that businesses have. I'm responsible for what I do in my premise, but I'm not worried about my upstream, which is the suppliers do. They might be cutting down trees, but I'm alright. That is how it was running. Now the businesses are becoming responsible and they are expected to take accountability of their supplies. Where am I procuring my material from? Are they doing the right things? So you would hear about these a lot more when you get to work, because that if you work, your organization provides anything to anybody in the downstream, you will be required to fetch that data for them. So be aware of that. So supply chain has been a massive area of contention lately and people are working a lot. One of you spoke about financial. Now this particular slide is important because so far we looked at a business. How would you consider a business is doing well or not? Sorry? Results. And results would typically mean you would look at financially how strong they are, right? But now the problem is there are non-financial indicators which can actually disrupt your business. Like I said, your raw material is not available. You've got your procurement from some supplier who is not doing ethical business. You have a problem with, you advertise a product which is incorrectly mentioned and you will go down in your rating and your investors will not give you any more capital to grow. So your business can falter not for finance but non-financial reasons, and this is called, there's a word in sustainability called materiality. So materiality every business has to do, which means what kind of risks do they have. It can be in terms of people, it can be in terms of products, it can be in terms of services, it can be in terms of industries, regulations, government, whatever. So for a consulting firm, one of the biggest risks we have would be, what can disrupt my business? I'm a consulting firm, I just have one room, I have a few ACs, few fans, few people will come and work for me, I work with my clients. What can be my biggest risk? I don't produce anything. Like, yeah, that can be I may have a problem with my reputation completely, it can mess it. But my biggest risk, my biggest materiality in a consulting firm is people. Because everybody who's getting trained, learning, there's a lot of tacit knowledge. Everything is not documented. If I leave my organization, I take my knowledge. So how do you cater to that? So you have to ensure that your employees are there, they know what they're doing, they're participating in whatever else they do, right? So that's important. So that's why this particular slide. We'll just take a second on this one, that while there is a financial analyst, there is also a non-financial, which could be about human rights, it could be about ethics, it could be about climate change, data privacy. How many of you went to that Facebook fiasco that happened a year and a half, 2 years back in the US? Yeah. So they were summoned and they were asked to explain that because we given data and that data was accessible to many more people, and he had to go and explain, and that had really brought down the shares of Facebook. Because people are sensitive that you can't take my data and use it to anybody's benefit, and especially when I don't even know what you're doing, right? So These are all sustainability matters, by the way. I mean, all of this, if you hear about it, might seem like different things, but they all can put a risk to your business. So, very quickly on this one, ESG, like I said, it doesn't need to be done together. Sometimes it can be independently done, sometimes it can be ENS. There are just some examples where you would look at human rights, you could look at how decarbonization projects can happen, you could look at how you are looking at suppliers and how you're helping them transition into newer things. I've spoken about this. How does it help the business? Why should I invest? We spoke about this, the transition finance. Because it helps in reputation building. You know there's a cost of hiring. Do you understand that? So if my people leave, it is not that I'm going to get somebody tomorrow. I will have to invest time, effort, and then by the time the person joins and by the time the person learns to do work at the same capability level, it's at least 6-8 months gone. So that's the cost as a business I have to take if I don't keep my people there. So therefore, culture and talent management, all this is critical. These are some metrics that you would have heard separately, but all of them are a part of business, ESG and sustainability. Why do you think is a board's role important? You know that the organizations have board members. Yeah? Why do you think they are important? What do they do? Sorry? What is important decision? Tell me one important decision.
Like about the company, like splitting the stocks or giving dividend to investors.
Okay.
And any critical decision related to the production or design.
Products they don't, because that's too operational for them. Typically, the role of the board is to give a direction to the business. And they are also third party because they are not so close to the business, so they can flag problems if there are. The responsibility of board is also to look at how the ecosystem looks like, what investors are looking at, therefore what kind of policies they need to have. Do they have a diversified board? There is an independent director who is expected to sit on the board. A woman independent director has to be on each board because that's where diversity also comes in. So a lot of these things are board's responsibility. So if any of this doesn't happen, they can actually go in behind bars. So it's a critical part of business. And why it's important and why board comes in and board's accountability comes in is because anything goes wrong, their skin needs to be in the game. I can't be sitting out of the business and giving gyan and then business goes down and then I don't care, right? So I have to have my skin in the game, and that's why board's role is important, and a lot of governance comes from there. We'll skip some of them. We've heard of climate risk, right? Climate change, climate crisis. That's one of the biggest risks we've ever had. We've spoken about in the morning, Mishra was mentioning this, and so was Sarit, about how we have seen so much of floods coming in, and Uttarakhand, half the time, every year it kind of now goes underwater. A lot of things has happened. Have you realized nowadays, earlier it used to be a page 1, now it has actually gone to page 3 and sometimes even beyond. We don't even care if Assam is under floods. None of us really take it so seriously anymore, at least this part of the city, right? And why is that? It has become common and it doesn't affect us. But the day it affects us, we will not know. It doesn't come with a notice. The way it is happening, and a lot of things are interrelated. So, I was hearing certain conversations where we said Bangalore floods happen because of climate change. Yes, climate change, but there is also a large part of wrong design. Urban planning was not done well. There's a lot of the practices we have. How many of us? So when you look at the crisis, lot of, like I said, 3 things. 1, climate change. 2, the practices in which the businesses have been done. And 3rd, which is also very important, is the behavior that we all demonstrate. How many of us really throw away stuff on the plastic papers and stashes, and we believe somebody will pick it up? It can go and clog your drains. So it is also the way we are consuming things which is driving that. Okay. So I'll just quickly move on to these. Are just a detail of a lot of that. This is the materiality, how it looks like. So many of your annual reports, if any of you choose to open, it will look like this. It will have 2 axes. 1, what is important to business and what is important to stakeholders. You do the stakeholder engagement and you come up with what is most critical and you invest money, time and resources to solve for them. These are some of the oversight costs that organizations had to take where they were supposed to do something but it didn't happen. There were billions and billions which went behind just to save their reputation and business. So this is the last slide I would put out. that why is sustainability report, which I mentioned, is critical, because that's the only single source of truth. Everybody sees only that, and there are different formats and standards. I can just, you will see some of the common names here. So, and this is used very interchangeably: standards, frameworks, guidelines, protocols, but they are all very different and for different purposes. So when you use it, whenever you use it, if you do, please make sure you use it with the right content. SDG, the way Nisha was saying, there are 17 of them. It does give some indicators. If you have not seen, there is a Niti Aayog indicator, also a dashboard which gets published every year. So have a look at that. I don't know if it got published this year, last year it was there. So go through that. It will tell you that for each of the SDGs, what are the possible indicators that you can have. Some of them can be done by businesses, some of them can be done by cities and larger scale work, right? So I think with this, I'll quickly pause for last 2 minutes. Any questions that I have not covered, and if your concept of sustainability is clear. My idea was to only tell you about sustainability and how you will integrate it into whatever work you do, and think about end of life or whatever you're solving for. 2 things you have to remember. One, the product or service you're creating should replace something. It should not be an additional thing. Like if I have this laptop and you give me a better laptop as well, which is low carbon, but I have an option to use this as well. So that this doesn't solve the problem. That's one concept. Second, whenever I'm creating, I should know how will I dismantle it, how will it end of life look like. So these two you need to integrate into your planner. With that, I think I will end my session, but anything else that you need, let me know. Any questions, any thoughts, anything you want to know? Yes?
You said about sustainability report, right? How are the audit tools?
So there are assurance agencies, so they look at data. Whenever the report gets published, you will find an assurance report at the end. So these guys look at data from the correctness, not as much, but how much availability, because it's in that process. So they go through the back documentation and they're assuring that the data exists. Yeah. Anything else? Clear, not clear, don't care, whichever. Okay, show of hands. Was it useful? Alright, thank you so much. In case you have any questions, they have my email ID, you could write to me or call me up, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you, good luck, and hopefully we have some good solutions from all of you.